You don't break a lock if you don't know what it's keeping out. Elias Voss stood at the command deck of the ENS Indomitable, arms crossed, eyes locked onto the holographic countdown projected above the quantum breach engine. The entire bridge was a hive of frantic movement, officers scanning readings, engineers running last-second diagnostics, weapons officers prepped for what they assumed would be a clean jump to interstellar freedom. They were all wrong. 30 seconds, a technician called. Voss exhaled. Drake, anything new? Captain Helena Drake, his second-in-command, glanced up from her console. Still nothing. Barriers holding steady. No fluctuations, no energy readings outside the expected range. Voss ran a hand down his face. Nothing at all? Drake hesitated. One thing. Silence. Voss turned to her. Explain. Drake tapped the display, bringing up long-range sensor feeds. We've been monitoring cosmic radiation, background noise, stray signals. The usual galactic mess. But past the barrier? She leaned closer. Nothing. Dead quiet. Like space just ends. Or something is waiting. Voss muttered. 10 seconds. The countdown pulsed bright red. Voss stepped forward. Whatever happens, we hold the line. We are the first humans to step beyond the chains. And I'll be damned if we don't make it count. 5. Drake gave him a sharp nod, jaw clenched. 4. The ship vibrated, the core spooling up. 3. A deep hum filled the chamber, like reality itself was bracing. 2. Something in Voss's gut twisted. 1. Silence. Then, everything shattered. A thunderclap of impossible force tore through space. The barrier didn't break, it screamed. The moment the QBE fired, the fabric of reality bent like it had been holding something back with every ounce of its existence. In the instant it collapsed, the void roared in. Space warped and twisted, light bending into grotesque spirals. The Indomitable lurched violently, claxons blaring. Drake grabbed onto the console. We didn't break through something. We let something in. Voss barely had time to react before the ship's AI shut down. The lights flickered, the bridge plunged into eerie darkness, and then, they heard it. A whisper. Not in their ears. In their minds. 1,000 voices layered atop each other, speaking languages that hadn't existed in millennia. The pressure was suffocating, like an ocean of voices trying to drown their thoughts. You have opened the wound. Voss clenched his fists, his heartbeat hammering against his ribs. You are unworthy. And then the sky bled. Outside the viewport, the blackness of space rippled. The stars vanished. Something moved out there, shifting in ways that defied logic. Shapes with too many limbs, too many eyes, crawling through the void. Not ships. Not creatures. Something worse. Voss. Drake's voice snapped him back. Incoming, massive gravitational distortions. Get us the hell out of here. Engines are unresponsive. The first world burned. Mars. The transmission came through fragmented, but the message was clear, the colony was gone. Not invaded. Erased. Like something had reached into existence and simply cut it out. Screams filled the comms. Weapons fire. Then static. The fleet scrambled, firing everything they had. The nearest warship, the Celestial Wrath, unleashed its full payload at a mass of writhing darkness, but the moment the missiles hit, they ceased to exist. The ship followed a second later, crumpling in on itself as if the universe had simply decided it no longer belonged. Jesus Christ, someone whispered. Voss grabbed the intercom. All ships, open fire. If it moves, kill it. The Indomitable's guns roared, spewing pure fury into the abyss. Hyperion-class railguns spat projectiles at relativistic speeds, while particle lances sliced through the shifting forms. For a moment, it almost seemed like they were fighting back. Then one of the Hololords turned its gaze upon them. A presence impossibly vast pushed against reality itself. The entire fleet felt it. Minds cracked under the weight of something ancient, something meant to remain forgotten. You were meant to be silent. The nearest battleship, the Perseus, detonated from the inside out, its crew screaming in pure, mindless agony before they vanished. Voss gritted his teeth. His own mind felt like it was on the verge of breaking, but he refused to kneel. Drake! She was shaking, barely holding on to consciousness. We can't win this, sir. The hell we can't. Voss slammed a fist against the console. We're human. We don't go quietly. We fight. We adapt. We burn the bastards who try to put us down. Something in those words cut through the psychic assault. The bridge crew snapped back to reality, gritting their teeth, refusing to be cowed by whispers in the dark. Drake's hands flew over her console. If we overload the quantum breach engine, we might be able to create a localized detonation, something that shoves them back. Voss grinned savagely. Do it. The Hollow Lords moved. The Indomitable shuddered as an impossible force pulled at it. Metal screamed. Bulkheads buckled. You will not escape. Drake! Almost there. The Hollow Lord's forms twisted, coiling toward them, reaching with tendrils of nothingness. Voss clenched his jaw. No fear. No hesitation. Full power to weapons. Aim everything we've got at that abyssal son of a bitch. When I give the word fire. Drake exhaled sharply. Engine primed. The Hollow Lord's whisper came again, layered, distorted, seeping into their very bones. You will join the silence. Voss bared his teeth. Like hell we will. He brought his fist down. Fire. The universe detonated. The Indomitable's entire arsenal unloaded at once, missiles, railguns, particle lances, all converging into one blinding inferno of destruction. At the same time, the quantum breach engine flared with a power never meant to be used by mortals. The Hollow Lord screamed. A wound tore open in reality, a rift dragging them back into the abyss. The fleet pulled free. The stars returned. And in the void, as the last of them was sucked into the breach, the Hollow Lords spoke one final time. This is not over. Then, silence. Voss exhaled, chest heaving. Drake slumped back, staring at the readouts. We lost over half the fleet. Voss didn't flinch. Could have been worse. She looked at him. Sir, what the hell were those things? Voss turned to the viewport, staring at the empty blackness where something unspeakable had just been sealed away. I don't know, he admitted. Then his eyes narrowed. But they just learned something about us. Drake frowned. What? A grim smile crossed his face. We don't go down easy. They came for us, thinking we'd fold. Thinking we'd break. But you don't cage humanity without consequences. You don't shackle a species like ours. We don't kneel. We fight. The silence after the detonation lasted exactly 13 seconds. Then, chaos erupted across the bridge. The fleet was battered, half its ships gone, but they were alive. And that meant there was still a fight to finish. Voss slammed his fist onto the comms panel. All ships, status report. Now. Static. Then the fractured voices of his fleet commanders, each one barking out damage reports. The Celestial Spear was dead, the Draken's Wrath was vending atmosphere, and the Perseus was gone, but a core fleet remained. They had survived the first strike. Sir, Drake's voice cut through the noise, urgent, sharp. New readings, something's still moving in the rift. Voss turned, eyes burning into the sensor feed. The space where the quantum breach engine had torn reality apart was warping again, pulsing with something worse. The Hollow Lords weren't retreating. They were adapting. A presence crawled through the breach. Bigger. Hungrier. Not a scattered invasion anymore, this was a full incursion. The whisper returned, deeper now, vibrating inside their skulls. You think you have one. You have only delayed the inevitable. Your kind was never meant to reach beyond. You are a mistake. Voss grinned, teeth bared like a wolf. We get that a lot. And yet, here we are. The rift exploded open, vomiting out an armada of writhing nightmares. Ships, if they could be called that, formed from shifting flesh and metal, twisting architecture that pulsed like something alive. Drake's voice turned cold. Orders? Voss didn't hesitate. We hold the line. The Indomitable's guns ignited first, spitting fire into the darkness. The rest of the fleet followed, ripping into the enemy with pure human defiance. Railguns punched through monstrous holes, particle lances seared through nightmare flesh, and missile barges turned the void into an inferno. The Hollow Lords responded in kind. Their ships didn't fire weapons, they spoke, and reality obeyed. One of their dreadnoughts unfolded, its form warping as a hole in space opened before it, a void that sucked entire battleships into oblivion. The Draken's wrath was caught in the pull. Its engines screamed as it fought against an unseen force, but it wasn't enough. The ship crumpled, its crew erased from existence before they could even scream. The bridge crew of the Indomitable recoiled, horror settling in. How do you fight something that bends the rules of reality itself? Voss leaned forward, knuckles whitening against the console. We learn their rules. And then we break them. Drake shot him a sharp look. How the hell do we break that? Voss's gaze locked onto the quantum core readouts of the Indomitable. The ship was built with experimental Vaethurum technology, something no one fully understood yet. But if the Hollow Lords were using raw manipulation of reality, then maybe, just maybe, humanity had one last gamble. He activated ship-wide comms. All hands, prepare for emergency synchronization. We're pushing the ship past its limit. We're going to phase. The bridge went still. Phasing had never been tested in a real fight. If it failed, they'd be as dead as the rest of the fleet. Drake hesitated for exactly half a second before smirking. Screw it. Worst case, we die. Best case, we kill some gods. Let's go. Voss keyed in the override. Engineering, dump all safety protocols. Lock us in and push the core to critical. The ship lurched violently as the experimental drive spooled up, the entire hull shimmering. The Indomitable was no longer bound to one point in space. Voss grinned. Now, let's see if we can hit them where it hurts. The ship vanished. For the first time in human history, a battleship blinked between reality layers. The Indomitable reappeared behind the Hollow Lord's dreadnought, moving at impossible speeds, weapons already primed. The enemy didn't have time to react. Full spread, fire everything. The Indomitable's payload unloaded in one devastating salvo. Massive hypervelocity railguns punched through the dreadnought's shifting mass, detonating inside its core. The creature writhed, its form collapsing inward, screeching in a voice that could have shattered planets. Then, it died. The rest of the human fleet saw what happened. Hope ignited like wildfire. Across the void, commanders shouted orders, ships adapting, moving faster, striking smarter. Humanity had done what no species before them had achieved. They had killed something eternal. The Hollow Lords felt it. Their whisper returned, but it was different now. Uncertain. This is wrong. You should not have. Voss cut the comms mid-sentence. Don't care. More of the Hollow Lords surged forward, but now, they were desperate. Their forms shifted erratically, as if they themselves were afraid. Voss cracked his knuckles. That's right. We're the nightmare now. The fleet pushed forward, tearing through enemy lines with ruthless efficiency. The Indomitable blinked through space, hunting its prey. Drake glanced at him, breathless. You seeing this? Voss's grin never faded. They made a mistake thinking we were prey. The last of the Hollow Lords began to retreat, their whisper turning into a broken cacophony. They were trying to leave. Voss didn't let them. Lock targets. No one gets out alive. The final onslaught was pure carnage. Ships vanished under human firepower, their forms ripped apart at a molecular level. Then, it was over. The battlefield was silent. Only human ships remained. The last echo of the Hollow Lord's whisper faded into nothing. Voss exhaled, tension bleeding from his shoulders. Drake leaned back in her seat, voice tinged with disbelief. We won. Voss stared at the wreckage. At the bodies. The cost. No. He exhaled. We survived. There's a difference. Drake nodded slowly. And them? Voss turned toward the void beyond the breach. We killed them today. But we're not done. His voice dropped to a low growl. Not until we take the fight to their gods. The fleet regrouped, battered but alive. But for the first time, humanity had drawn blood from the darkness. And the universe would never forget it. They thought we would die. They thought we would break. But they didn't know what we were willing to become. The fleet drifted in silence, battered but victorious. The Hollow Lords had retreated, licking their wounds, but they weren't gone. Not yet. Voss stood at the center of the Indomitable's bridge, watching the void where the enemy had fled. We're going after them, he said. Drake turned to him, brow furrowed. We just survived a war with something that eats civilizations. You want to chase it? Voss exhaled slowly, fists tightening. Surviving isn't enough. If we let them regroup, they'll come back stronger. And next time? There won't be a next time. Silence. Then a voice crackled through comms. Admiral Koresh, head of Earth's first armada. Voss, we've lost a third of our fleet. We barely understand what we fought. If we take the fight to them, we risk losing everything. Voss didn't hesitate. Then we lose everything. Or we win. But sitting here? Waiting? That's a death sentence. We finish what we started. Another voice chimed in. Captain Renz of the Titan Fury, his voice ragged but resolute. He's right. We hit them now. We don't give them time to regroup. Koresh hesitated, then sighed. I should court-martial you, Voss. Yeah, but you won't, Voss replied. Koresh grunted. No. I won't. The fleet prepared for war. Voss turned to Drake. What's the status on the VA Thurum core? She glanced at the readouts. Stable. But the tech's still half unknown. If we push it beyond its limits. We push, he interrupted. We push until they break or we do. She exhaled. You're enjoying this, aren't you? Voss grinned. No, but I'll be damned if I'm not built for it. The Indomitable's engines flared. The fleet moved forward, slipping through the shattered veil of reality toward the place where the Hollow Lords had fled. And they found hell waiting. The moment they emerged from phase space, the universe twisted. Planets that shouldn't exist floated like broken bones, moons cracked open like eggs, their cores pulsing with unnatural light. And in the center, a structure. The Hollow Lord's true form. Not ships. Not creatures. But a world made of hunger. You still come. The voice echoed across every comm channel, seeping into their thoughts. You are stubborn. Unyielding. Like fire that refuses to be snuffed out. Voss smirked. That's called being human, you eldritch bastard. The Hollow Lord struck first. Reality ripped apart. Ships vanished in an instant, consumed by void fire. The fleet opened fire, railguns, lances, missiles, but the enemy had adapted. Every kill cost them 3 more. The Indomitable twisted, blinking through reality, dodging annihilation by inches. Voss felt the pressure in his skull, in his bones, in his blood. The Hollow Lords weren't just fighting them. They were trying to rewrite them. Drake's scream cut through the bridge. They're warping our ships, crews reporting, hallucinations, changes, Jesus, Voss, they're breaking us down. Then we break harder, Voss growled. He slammed his hand on the override panel. Activate Project Hellfire. Now. Drake paled. That's not ready. Neither are we. She didn't argue. The Vaethurum core pulsed, activating ancient technology not meant for human hands. Energy crawled through the ship's systems, through its crew. And then? They changed. Voss felt it first. His vision sharpened, his pulse slowed. His muscles tightened with strength not his own. His thoughts became clearer, faster, sharper. Across the fleet, humanity evolved in real time. Bodies rewriting themselves, fusing with the very fabric of war. Flesh became something more. The first Hollow Lord reached for the fleet. Voss caught it with his mind. The creature screamed. You don't get to rewrite us, he whispered. We rewrite ourselves. The Indomitable surged forward, its weapons burning hotter, firing faster. The fleet followed suit, no longer just ships, but living weapons. The Hollow Lords faltered. And Voss knew. They were afraid. Full offensive, he ordered. No survivors. The battle became slaughter. The fleet burned through reality, striking at impossible angles, warping past the Hollow Lord's defenses. Voss tore through them, cutting them down with something beyond firepower, something primal. They were gods. And humanity was killing them. The last Hollow Lord tried to run. Voss wouldn't let it. He reached out, his mind a weapon sharper than any blade. He gripped the creature's essence, dragging it back into real space. The thing screamed, writhing. Voss didn't blink. You die here. He crushed it. And in that moment, the Hollow Lords ceased to exist. The universe shuddered. The Hollow Lords' world crumbled, their presence erased. The battle was over. Silence. Then, the fleet cheered. Drake turned to Voss, breathless. What the hell did we just do? Voss exhaled. We won. Her gaze darkened. At what cost? Voss looked down at his hands. They weren't fully human anymore. He wasn't sure if he ever would be again. He didn't care. They started this war, he said. We finished it. Koresh's voice broke through comms. Mission complete. The enemy is gone. Voss looked out into the void. No. Not gone. Waiting. He knew this wasn't over. But if they ever came back, humanity wouldn't just be ready. They'd be hunters. They thought we were prey. We became something else. Silence settled over the fleet, a silence that felt unnatural. No more whispers in the dark, no more anomalies twisting space, no more Hollow Lords. They had won. Drake stared at the wreckage, at the shifting remains of things that shouldn't have existed. We actually did it. Voss's grip tightened on the command console. We did more than that. We became something else. He could feel it. The raw power thrumming under his skin, the sharpened instincts, the way the universe felt clearer now, like he could reach out and bend it to his will. Drake wasn't the only one who noticed. The fleet's comms erupted in murmurs, officers reporting strange sensations, heightened perception, faster reflexes. Koresh's voice came through, rough and unsteady. Voss, what the hell have we done to ourselves? Voss flexed his fingers. We adapted. This isn't just adaptation. Drake turned to him. You feel it, don't you? We've changed. Voss exhaled. We had to. You saw what they were. You saw what we were up against. This was the only way to survive. Drake hesitated. But at what cost? Before he could answer, a proximity alarm blared. Not an attack. Something else. A signal. From beyond the battlefield. Koresh's fleet had been monitoring long-range scanners since the start of the fight. Now, something big was coming through. Drake's voice was tight. What now? The Indomitable's AI flickered, pulling up a visual feed. A ship. No. A fleet. Not hollow lords. Not human. Something older. Then, a voice came through. Not in whispers, not in screams. A message. We have watched. We have waited. And now we see what you are. Koresh swore. Who the hell? You have destroyed the Hollow Lords. But you do not understand the war you have begun. Voss's hands clenched. Who are you? Silence. Then. The first ones to seal the breach. And now, the only ones left to stop what comes next. Drake turned pale. This isn't over, is it? Voss shook his head. It was just beginning. The fleet watched as the new arrivals moved through the wreckage of the battlefield, their ships unlike anything humanity had ever seen. Massive, sleek, edged with energy signatures that flickered in and out of existence. The lead vessel stopped just outside their formation. Voss held his ground. Open a channel. The bridge filled with the presence of something ancient. You are reckless. Dangerous. Unshackled. Voss smirked. You say that like it's a bad thing. You broke a prison that was never meant for you. Drake whispered, they mean the barrier. The voice continued, calm, powerful. The Hollow Lords were one part of a war far older than your species. We sealed them away to prevent something worse from coming through. You have unbalanced everything. Koresh's voice cut in. We just saved the galaxy. You're welcome. The presence shifted, as if studying them. You do not understand what you have unleashed. The Hollow Lords were a symptom, not the disease. The true enemy is waking. Voss stepped forward. Then let them wake. Drake inhaled sharply. Voss. He didn't break his gaze from the entity. We're not running. We're not hiding. We took down the Hollow Lords, and if something worse is coming, we'll deal with it. That's what humans do. Silence stretched. Then, the voice softened, almost curious. Yes. That is what you do, isn't it? The fleet of the ancients began to move. Very well. If you insist on waging this war, then you will need more than weapons. You will need understanding. A data package transferred instantly, bypassing human firewalls like they weren't even there. Voss felt the knowledge pouring into his systems. Coordinates. Warnings. A map of something far bigger than the Hollow Lords. We leave you now. But know this, what comes next will test the very meaning of what you are. The fleet vanished. And in their place, the coordinates pulsed on the screen. Koresh's voice was grim. Where do they lead? Drake stared at the map. Deep space. Uncharted. Beyond anything we've ever seen. Voss turned to the fleet. Then that's where we go. No one argued. They had already passed the point of no return. The first war was over. The real war had just begun. And humanity would be ready.